In this video, I want to share some tips for when you're going back and forth, like for knitting heels or toes. And the first thing to know is that you cannot simply start going the other direction, right? So number one, you would drop stitches, but number two, it will actually jam up in your cam system. So in order to go backwards, all the needles that are in the cam area have to be lifted up and out of work. And I'll show you that in a minute. The other thing I wanted to mention is that sometimes a pattern will simply say to lift the bottom half, for example, of the cylinder. My main mark in this case is here, and my halfway mark is this red one here. One way to know whether you are at the bottom of the foot or the top of the foot is that if you have followed our suggestions and marked for the wedge heel targets, that's the top of the foot. So for me, the blue ones are the wedge heel target. So I know that this half of the cylinder, this is the top half, and this is the bottom half. Like if you're knitting a sock, this would be the part under your foot is down here. So I've just been cranking clockwise, and now I want to lift the needles, let's say on the bottom half of the cylinder. I want you to just lift them straight up and out of work. Again, do not lift too ferociously, or you could actually pull the cylinder band completely off of the cylinder, which is not ideal. So once your needles are lifted up and out of work, then you keep cranking for the row that you're on. Okay. And you could kind of hear where the needles stopped actually knitting, and then you can spin freely with them in this area. You can see the needles are now traveling above the cam system. The first thing you want to do then is to engage your heel spring. There's another whole video on using the heel spring. This is just a brief reminder, but first you need to make sure the yarn is under the clip. If you forgot to do that before, you can just take the clip off and put it on top of the yarn, and then pull the heel spring forward and put the yarn into the hook. You also don't want to go too many rows before putting in your heel springs, and there's also another whole video on doing that. But I am going to go ahead and put one at each corner. And then one in the middle. And you're putting those on the side where your needles are in work. So there's one here, and one right here. So now we're ready to start going back the other direction. It's really important to watch the first needle. Watch as well, make sure everything's working with your heel spring. It's pulling your yarn back for you. And then that first needle, you might need to bend it sort of out or toward the yarn feeder a little bit in order to get it to catch. You go halfway around. Now, anytime that you are cranking back and forth, you either need to lift a needle, wrap a needle, push down a needle, etc., or you can drop a stitch. So here I'm going to lift a needle again. My heel spring is pulling out the slack for me. And again, I'm just going to watch that first needle. Caught no problem. And that's really it. You would just keep going around back and forth like that, adjusting your heel forks. Again, I would check out the video on how to do that. I would add one final note as well, that in case you're knitting with the ribber only works cranking clockwise. So you would usually take the ribber completely off, turn your heel, for example, and then put it back into work. And there's another whole video on how to do that. But just as you think about how to position, whether you're going clockwise or counterclockwise, you want to make sure that that last row is certainly set up to be going clockwise in case you're going to put the ribber back on. When you're done and you've put the needles back into work, remember to disengage your heel spring. I hope that helps. Happy knitting! Visit us at deanandbean.com and please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.